Okay, in these presentations, we are going to discuss under the topic maxims of equity. From the last presentations, we have been discussing mm, under this topic, that is, and today also we are going to discuss under the heads of maxims of equity. Uh, Today we will discuss maxims. Uh, Delay defeats equity, and second maxim, equality is equity, and third maxims, equity looks to the intent rather than to the borrow, and the number four maxims, equity looks on that as done which ought to have been done. These four maxims uh, we are going to discuss under these presentations. Now, at first, the maxims delay defeats equity. Here, equity adds to the vigilance and not the indolent is the new interpretations of this maxim. Here, in relation to this maxim, delay defeats equity. In these cases, it provides that the parties to the litigants or parties to the proceedings, they must be vigilant. They should not be indolent. They should be aware about their rights, about the approaching in the judicial proceedings in due time. They should not be sleeping in their own rights. That is, they must have to approach in the due time. If they could not approach in due time, then within the reasonable time, they have to proceed in the court proceedings. That is, that's why the parties should be vigilant. They should not be indolent. That is, here equitable relief can be claimed if undue delay is made in filing the claim. Filing the claim must be in due time and in reasonable time. That is, here in criminal matters, here regarding the FIR, first information report, it must be given at the police stations, respective jurisdictions of the police stations in due time. Here, if the FIR or complaints, it is not in due time, then it may be weak or there are chances that manipulations. Hence, no indolence or delay should be there in complaining the equitable rights. That's why. In filing of the FIR and in filing of the complaints, it is in case of the criminal prosecutions, but in case of the civil prosecutions, filing of the suits, submission of the pleadings, it must be in due time. Then only the party they could get the equitable reliefs. This maxim relates about this. Here, a proverb is that one who steps upon his right, the right steps away from him. Hmm. That is that is the proverb we got. Hmm. That's why in due time or reasonable time they have to approach. Otherwise they could not entitle the equitable reliefs. That is here in case a person allowed a person to occupy his hand for a period of 12 years. Regarding the possession of the property, if one person he has allowed the other person to possess his immobile property for 12 years. In these cases, the person who has dispossessed under the concept of the adverse possessions, he could get the title of this property. Subsequently, that is. Yeah, because the owners of the property, legal owners of the property, who had the legal title, he did not approach for the filing of the eviction suit. In these cases, by the concept of the adverse possessions, possession is the ninth point of law. That is the we got in the jurisprudence. Yeah, under this concept, where dispossessed the another's lands, under the concept of the adverse possessions, they could get the subsequently they could get the ownership. That is the legal title. Property belongs to these persons. Here, this concept. That's why in our Indian legal systems, we have enacted institute Indian Limitation Act. That is, for every subject matter of the litigations, they have some time period. Within this time period, the party they have to approach in the court proceedings. That is, here, the law of limitation is based upon this fact that everyone should be alert, active, and smart in connections to their property, claims, and recovery. That is, here, let's say it denotes negligence, unreasonable delay. That is, it is a part of acquiescence, which means action upon any infringements of one's right upon the property, and it is a total loss of an equitable relief. That is, who are the lessors? That means they are not approaching within the due time. Yeah, they will based upon the negligence on their own rights. They will lose the equitable relief. That is, here under Section 5 of the Limitations Act, under Section 5 of the Indian Limitation Act 1963, here express provision is given about the condonation of delay. Here, the court should be satisfied for the cause of delay. Otherwise, such application of condonation of delay are rejected. Yeah, the parties they must have to be satisfied to the court about the reasonable delay. Otherwise, the condonation of delay it will be rejected by the court. Whatever the party they have submitted to this. Yeah, that is the basic concept of the delay defeats equity. Okay. Now the next maxims. Equality is equity. Here, this maxim, equality is equity. Here, uh, equality is equity, or equity is equality. It depends on the fairness, justice, and voice of conscience. It means about it. Here, right to equality is a fundamental right in the Constitution of India. Now, the natural justice also demonstrates both the parties of the should be treated equally. Natural justice demands the parties to the should. In some circumstances, they should be treated equally. That is, here no favoritism should be allowed, no discriminations should be allowed on the basis of caste, color, creed, sex, religions, or geography. That is. Now, this concept of equality is equity, we could see on the some doctrines. That is, in case of the contributions. Here, in case of the contributions between the co-debtors to the creditors. If there are more than one debtor, if they have taken some loan from the other persons, if one of them they have fully satisfied whatever the loan amount to the creditor, here this co-debtor, he can satisfy whatever he paid to the debt loan to the creditor from the other co-debtors. That is the equitable principles, because they are jointly liable to single creditor. That is the concept of the contributions. Here, and readily distribution of proceeds or assets. Next doctrine is the readable distribution of assets. That is, here, if the assets of an insolvent debtor were found insufficient to clear up the amounts of debt claimed by various creditors, the common law allowed certain creditors to take priority over others, and therefore others who did not come in preferential list were left without a remedy against the debtor. Here, in case of if there are more than one creditors against the insolvent debtor, in this distribution of assets, what the common law they have given some preferential list. If amongst these creditors, if they are come under the preferential list, then only they could get their loan amounts, that is, from the debtors. Otherwise, they could not get. That is, in these cases, whatever the equity principle says, equity in such cases insisted on a pro rata or proportionate distribution of assets of the debtor by abolishing preferential treatment of certain creditors. In these cases, equity principle says that this preferential treatment should be abolished and proportionate distributions should be done to the creditors. That is, here all creditors were placed on an equal footing and were allowed to show the assets proportionately to the amount of their credit. That is, to the amount of their credit proportionately. The assets of the insolvent debtor must be distributed. That is the concept of the equity. But the common law did not provide about this. Here, and the equity is disliked for a joint tenancy. In this cases also, this maxim equality is equity, it is relevant. Here, at the joint property, at the joint tenant, if the one of tenants, if he died or expired, then the representative of the deceased tenants, they could not get the benefit of this tenant property. And the common law did not provide benefit enjoyment rights to the representative of the deceased expired tenant. But the equity principles, equity jurisdiction, it provides enjoyments of this deceased tenants and the joint tenant property. This is the equitable principles. And we could see in the marshalling also, this maxim equality is equity. It is also in the marshalling of property also. Here, suppose there are two creditors of the same debtor. Here, and one creditor has a right to resort to two funds of the debtor. Here, other creditor has a right to only one of them. Here, the court acting on this maxim shall show marshal. That is the making arrangements. The funds that both the creditors are paid as much as per possible. Here, equality consists in fairness. That is, here, this doctrine of marshalling arrangements, it provides that both the creditors, they should be treated equally under the such circumstances. Here, now the next maxim of equity. Here, equity looks to the intents rather to the forum. Next maxim. We are going to discuss equity looks to the intent rather than to the forum. Here, in this maxim, it provides about the mens rea of the parties, intention of the parties, ambition of the parties. Here, mens rea is the first considerations of every action, of every deed, of every agreement, of every deed, of every transaction between the parties. It may be in the civil prosecutions, or it may be in criminal prosecution, it may be in civil dispute, or it may be in criminal dispute. What about the parties? They have alleged, they have asserted, they have denied. That is, here in these cases, with what intentions the work has been done is important. That is, here it doesn't rely upon the forum, that is the formality, but it regards substance more important. That is, here the judge must go deep into the subject to know the actual intentions. That is, here the letters are not so important. than the substance. It doesn't give importance to the formal appearance, an external forum to conceal the time meaning, hmm, object and purpose of the transactions. It means that equity never remains in the surface of the subject. Hmm. Rather, it goes deep into the subject to know the real intention of the party. That is, yeah. This maxim relates states. It doesn't based on the substance. Hmm. Yeah, the spirit of the parties, intention of the parties must be observed. Hmm. That is, this maxim indicates about this maxim provides about this. Here, the common law used to rely upon the forum. Whatever the common law, ordinary law, they have relied upon the substance. That is the form of the law. That is, shall was more important. That made the common law as a rigid, hard, and strict. That is, equity showed that a contract can be void even though it was under seal for one of considerations. Equity looks to the spirit rather than to letter. If the resignations of a person is there, equity will go behind the written contents, that it might not be a result of force or compulsion. Yeah. Whatever we got the concept of the voidable contract. Yeah, if the consent of the parties, yeah, either party they have obtained under the concept of the coercions, undue influence, misrepresentations, fraud, mistake, then the parties they can avoid the contract. That is based on the intentions of the parties regarding the subject of agreements. It based on the spirit of the parties. That's why this maxim says that equity relied on the intents, not the substance, not the form of the deed. That is, okay. We got the concept of this maxim. Now the next maxim. Here in this maxim, okay. In this maxim, equity looks to the intent rather to the form. We have got so many concepts in the transfer of property about the section 60 of the right of redemptions of the mortgagor and the section 114 of the transfer of property about the rights of the lessee in these cases. In these provisions, the concept of the equity based on the intentions of the parties, that is, yeah, we got this concept in the transfer of property. So many provisions are there. Here, right of redemptions, section 60 of the Transfer of Property Act. This is also this maxim is related based on the intentions. That is, here, right to redeem is the right to recover something by making certain payments. Mortgager's right of redemptions means mortgager's right to recover or get back the property after making payment of loans. That is, yeah. In case of mortgage, whatever the property is given to the mortgagee, it is just a security only. It is not the transaction of selling to the mortgagee. It is not the sale, It is just given under the security for the repayment of the loan. That's why mortgage is in transfer of an interest only in an immovable property for securing the loan. By way of security, the mortgagor transfers an equitable and interest in his immovable property. If the loan has been paid, the interest should transfer must refer back to the mortgagor. If the interest is repaid by the mortgagor, it must be the mortgagor must have to transfer the property to the mortgagor. It is. That is the concept. Once a mortgage, always a mortgage. That is. This is based on the equitable principles. And we got in the equity of redemptions. This is known as the equity of redemptions. And in this section 60, we got this clear concept. It provides about the equity principles in the Transfer of Property Act. And the section 114, it provides about the lessors. It provides about the section 114 of the Transfer of Property Act. It provides about the relief against forfeiture for non-payment of rents. To the lessee. Here, this section relates with this maxim. Here, section 114 of the Transfer of Property Act, it provides that if at the hearing of a suit, the lessee pays or tenders to pay the arrears of rents together with compensation, the court may not pass a decree of ejectment against him. What about the lessor rights? If the lessee cannot pay the rent, he can eject the lessee. In these cases, the equitable principle is provided if the lessee, if he could pay, if he could repayment the loans, together with the compensations to the lessor, then he can retain the leased property against. This is the protection to the lessee. Here, section 114 provides equitable protection to the lessee. That is. Here, the next maxim. Number 4 maxims now. Equity looks on debt as done, which ought to have been done. Number 4 maxims we are going to discuss. Equity looks on debt as done, which ought to have been done. Now, this maxim provides that it is a maxim which presumes that the parties of the contract will respectively of their duties as is expected from them. That is, for example, a doctor is supposed to have done all those rights which come under his duty towards his patient. That is the rights and obligations. What about the patients? It is under the doctor for treatments. Yeah, the obligation, duty of the doctor, it is implied, directly related to this towards his patients. Now, the party of the contract will do their respective act upon his conscience and would do its best to fulfill its obligations. Here, the word ought is related with the duty part of a person. That is, here, this relevant concept we could see in some doctrines. Here, the regarding the conversions. Number one, conversions. It implies that agreement is done as per schedule in the same manner as was agreed upon, and the parties must have fulfilled their respective part correctly. Hmm. Whatever the parties they have made agreement under the subject, subsequently they have to fulfill their obligations. That is, here, in case of the selling and purchasing of the property, here the money is converted into property and the same person would be treated as the owner of the property. Whatever the selling transactions under the considerations, yeah, if the money is paid, yeah, this money converted to the property, that is the purchaser. Now he is the legal owner of this property. That is, it is the concept of the conversions. Actions under considerations. That is, here it also implies that once a property is converted into form of the trust, then the owner is no longer an owner, and now the interest of the beneficiaries would be taken into consideration. And regarding the creation of the trust, if the owner of the property, that is the settlor of the trust, author of the trust, if he has given the trust property under the trust, then he is no longer the owner of the property. Now, under this property, the beneficiaries of this trust, they will enjoy the rights under this property. And next, executory contracts. In this also, this maxim is related. Whatever we're discussing, equity looks on that as done, which ought to have been done. Here, it means that execution of the contracts of lease should be done in the same manner as has been put in the agreements. If a lease is done in which monthly rent is payable, then payment would be matched on monthly basis. If the demand is met that advance rent be collected, then it shall not be permissible. Here, under the executory contract, whatever the between the lessor and lessee, that is the common word we known as the landlord and the tenant. Yeah, under the contracts, under the executing contract, if there is written agreement that the rent should be collected monthly, then it can be permitted to collect per month only. That is in due date. That is. But if the landlord, that is the lessor, if he wants to collect this in advance, then it will not be permissible. These are the concept of the regarding the equity looks on that is done which ought to have been done. This reflects in this maxim. Whatever the executive contract they have written express, it should be done in compliance with this. And this maxim we could see in relations to doctrine of part performance under section 53A of the Transfer of Property Act. Here, section 53A of the Transfer of Property Act 1882 is an example of this equitable doctrines in which any party who has done something hmm, under the belief of certainty, eh, then on finding out that the contract which was needed to be registered has not been registered, then whatever cost has been invested by him can be claimed from the real owner. Regarding the transaction of the immovable property. Here, if the seller of the immovable property, hmm, if they have under the agreement sell the property, hmm, but subsequently, if it is sended, the seller he had no legal title regarding this property, so that the conveyance transfer of the title could not be done to the that is the purchaser, hmm, that is the uh, transferring. In these cases, here this cost can be recovered from the seller. That is, or if the seller is subsequently get the authority to transfer this property, he must have to transfer the title of this property to the transferee, that is to the purchaser. That is related to the transfer of immovable property, selling and buying of the immovable property. This maxim equity looks on that as done which ought to have been done. It is related because at the instance of the shell agreement, selling and buying of immovable property agreements, here the property cannot be transferred instantly. There is some procedure. Parties must have to approach in the that is the DC office, that is regarding the registration of the uh, title of the property. That is in these cases, this maxim, whatever they have agreed today, that is here it must be performed by the party. That is, it is obligation belongs to the party. Whatever they have promised today, that is here we got this concept. And a transfer of future property operates as a contract to be performed in future. That is, as soon as that property comes in future in existence, then it may be specifically enforced. And in case of the a transfer of future property, whatever the party they have agreed, that is, if this property comes under the hands of the that is the grantor, that is the promisor. In these cases, if they get subsequently this authority, they must have to perform these obligations. That is, in this concept, doctrine of performance, there is section 53 of the Transfer of Property Act. Under this section also, we could see the concept of the equitable principles. That is, okay. After this, we have discussed today clearly. That is, I think we got a clear concept up to this, all the maxims. Okay, that's all.